Welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall, a live look at Jerusalem as we continue our coverage of the Middle East. We saw a video posted on social media earlier today. And, before we get into the social media video, what you're looking at right now is a live image in the West Bank, where we are still at this hour watching Palestinian prisoners return to the West Bank as they've been exchanged for the bodies of 4 hostages in Gaza. This, from what we've been talking about with Alon Burstein offline, they've been intermittently spreading these out throughout the day. So we'll keep an eye on the situation. It looks like this bus is driving off, and we'll keep an eye out if we see any more activity on this camera. In the meantime, though, let's get to what we saw on Truth Social earlier today. President Trump sharing a video with apparent AI-generated images supporting his vision for a rehabilitated Gaza under U.S. oversight. The video juxtaposing images of poverty, guns, and rubble in the so-called Gaza of 2025 alongside images of a sunny, beachy, skyscraper-lined resort town. AI renderings, as you are seeing right now, of Trump, Elon Musk, and Benjamin Netanyahu appear throughout the 33-second clip. At one point, kids are dancing under raining money. This is a bizarre one, to say the least. Alon Burstein is standing by. You and I were texting as soon as we saw this video come out. And I'm going to put it back up because some people may not have seen this yet. And this was posted on the president's account. You and I, Alon, have talked about a lot of bizarre stuff since this war began. This has got to be up there amongst the most bizarre, though. Why might the president post something like this now?
Good to see you, Austin. Absolutely. This is definitely one of the stranger developments that we have seen. This has to be put into context with the general questions that are constantly being raised with regards to, is Trump's plan or vision for the Gaza Strip, the sort of ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and therefore thereafter they're going to move somewhere else, and then rebuilding the Gaza Strip to be the Riviera of the Middle East. Is this an actual plan, or is this just Trump's, more common negotiating tactic of starting very, very, very high? We saw this with the tariffs. We've seen this with Ukraine and the minerals, starting very high and then trying to get to some sort of deal. I think within that context, this video has to be understood as taking it a step further and saying, look, if I want to, I can push this even further. The images in this video not only are so unrealistic, they're also, like you said, it was juxtaposed within the video to the situation in the Gaza Strip. It's also just a complete collision of the life in the Gaza Strip and the experience of the Middle East, the experience of the Palestinians, versus the vision of Donald Trump when it comes to business, dollars, swimming pools. Everything about this video is showing everything that everything about the Gaza Strip is going to be erased. The culture, the history, the identity. We see in this video palm trees, we see dancers in bikinis. The Gaza Strip is a very conservative area ruled by an Islamist organization. We see, Elon Musk, but he's eating hummus again and again. See Trump dancing. All of these things are just a complete collision. And within the context of trying to understand Trump's plan, or why Trump is actually developing this plan right now and putting it very public, this video is almost an escalation saying, look, just in case you were wondering, this is how far I'll go. I'll almost make it ridiculous. This is a ridiculous version of what might become of the Gaza Strip. Golden statues of Donald Trump, Elon Musk throwing money at everyone, is sort of such a way of pushing maybe Jordan, Egypt even further, saying, you better come up with a plan that will satisfy someone, because otherwise we're going this direction. That's the only way I think we can read this video, because certainly that video is not going to make anyone in the Gaza Strip or the Arab world think, okay, maybe this is a good plan for something that's going forward. This is actually taking it almost a step further in pushing people away from the plan, saying, okay, we can't have this happen to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, have we heard Israel's top brass react to this video? Have we heard the Arab world react?
Honestly, I haven't seen a lot within the Arab world or within Israel. I don't think, to be blunt, I don't think it's being taken that seriously. When Trump made his announcements about the plan, and more importantly, when he sat with Netanyahu and answered questions about the plan, that's I think where people started to get nervous. Because at first, when the announcement was made, I think a lot of people might have taken it as okay, another thing that the president said without necessarily thinking it through, right? Another one of the off the cuff comments. But then when he was asked questions and when he drove further and further in saying this is a plan that's going to be implemented and how it's going to be, I think then people in the Middle East started to take it more seriously. Um, People are nervous because of that. They're nervous because actually it seems like Trump might think that this is a plan that's going to be implemented, not just a almost bullying tactic to get the Arab states to come up with their own plan, actually plan that will be implemented, and they're nervous about that. This AI generated video, and we played it without music here, but in the background is also Trump is going to liberate Gaza, Trump is going to bring freedom to Gaza is playing in the background as a song. This into itself, I think, is not going to do anything to scare people in the Middle East more than Trump's announcement. Trump's announcement, I think, scares people because Trump has said time and again, also after that announcement, as far as he's concerned, Israel can do whatever it has to do in the Gaza Strip. Trump has said that the Gaza will be transferred over to the United States and Israel can do whatever it wants. That is what's scaring Palestinians, the Middle East, the Arab world. This video is almost like making a mockery and saying, and FYI, it can go up to the point of me, the president of the United States, and the Israeli prime minister sitting and sunbathing in the Gaza Strip. That unto itself is not going to scare anyone more than the idea that this policy can actually be implemented. This unto itself is just, I think, another step further, just sort of like escalating and showing, look, I'm actually toying with this idea. Take it seriously. We have the Arab League summit that is happening tomorrow. This is almost like offering them, take it seriously, because meanwhile, almost to some extent, here I am having fun with this idea. I think that's what Trump was trying to show with this video.
So we have been, as we watched this video come out, this also came on the same day as yet another hostage exchange. We saw 4 bodies of hostages exchanged for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. This is the same camera we were looking at moments ago. We have been watching the Palestinian prisoners arrive at the West Bank intermittently throughout the overnight hours there. This is one of the final major facets of this truce before it expires on Saturday alone. Does this truce have to expire on Saturday? Have there been any discussions about phase 2?
So first of all, you're absolutely right in saying this is the actual last implementation of the exchange, so to speak. The last of the bodies of Israeli hostages that were going to be returned to Israel in this phase, in phase A of the deal, have now been returned. Israel has yet to confirm that those are in fact the bodies, but presumably, because we have another case like Shiri Bibas, those are the bodies, and Israel in turn is in the process of releasing those Palestinian prisoners that we might talk about later. With this, phase A, the implementation of phase A is complete. It is going to continue until Saturday. Now, according to the initial terms of the deal, what's supposed to happen is phase 2 will begin immediately and will to itself be a 42-day phase. During that time, the remainder of all Israeli hostages will be released in exchange for, this is important, an undetermined amount of Palestinian prisoners. And there will be a complete idea of withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, and both sides will declare an end to the war. Now, one of the things that's very important is that the undetermined amount of Palestinian prisoners was supposed to be negotiated. According to the terms of the deal, starting in day 16, so 2.5 weeks ago, there was supposed to begin negotiations on phase 2 so that it can be implemented immediately. So you can have this bleed through from the first phase to the second phase. Those negotiations never started. Israel never sent a delegation to the negotiations. At first, it was a holdup because it actually happened on the same day that Trump and Netanyahu were having that press conference. After that, Israel said that it was withholding sending a delegation because of Hamas violations, that Hamas did in fact violate the deal in a couple of ways until those violations were rectified. What is, in fact, is that the implementation of phase 2 has not been negotiated yet. Now, the deal does leave an opening for this loophole. It does leave an opening and says that as long as negotiations on over phase 2 are continuing, the truce will be extended. So when under the Biden administration this deal was orchestrated or developed, it they foresaw that it is very possible that the sides will not complete the negotiations in time, so the truce can be extended automatically until phase two begins to be implemented. One of the things, though, that is very important to note is that regardless of the negotiations in phase two, on Saturday, on March 1st, Israel is supposed to begin with its withdrawal from the Philadelphia corridor, from the border between Gaza and Egypt, and that is supposed to be completed by day 50. That theoretically is supposed to happen regardless of phase two. That is part of the end of phase one. Whether that happens or doesn't happen is going to be a major question, because very likely what we're going to see is both sides agreeing to possibly extend the negotiations, maybe even artificially extend the first phase while they talk, etc. But if Israel does not do that, and politically it will be very difficult for Netanyahu to do that, if Israel does not do that, Hamas is going to say this is a major violation of the deal and we're not even negotiating phase two. And then it remains to be seen how Steve Witkoff can try to sort of bring the sides together.
Before we go, let's switch over from these live images and go to some footage from earlier in the evening. We had a camera in the West Bank earlier as some of the most recent groups of Palestinian prisoners were arriving. Every time we've seen this happen, Alon, it looks like almost a celebration out there. Is that an accurate way to describe it, in your opinion?
Absolutely. Palestinian prisoners and the subject of Palestinian prisoners that are held in Israeli jails has been one of the major focal points in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Both sides have sort of developed their big narratives around what is the conflict about, what is our major grievances. Within Israel, obviously, it relates to terrorism and security. Within the Palestinian society, it relates to the occupation, Israeli settlements, and the issue of Palestinian prisoners. Historically, Palestinian prisoners are Palestinians that have been tried in Israeli military courts, and this can be on a range of charges. These range from murder and terrorism all the way to violating the very, very simple laws. Very, very, very simple laws or misdemeanors within Israel's military occupation that could have anything to do with graffitiing or blocking a road or things like that. That could be enough to send you for a year or two to jail. So when we talk about Palestinian prisoners, there's really a wide range of who these prisoners are. Regardless of who they are in Palestinian society, it is seen as one of the major things that the Palestinian struggle has been about, releasing these prisoners. And Hamas is being very, very intelligent, so to speak, in promoting the release of Palestinian prisoners as its great victory. Hamas has a big hand in organizing these celebrations. It is also spontaneous from the ground, from within the Palestinian villages, but it is also Hamas driving these celebrations in order to show, look, the major issue of releasing our people from Israeli jails, we have accomplished. No one else has accomplished. Through the way path of negotiations, Palestinian Authority has not accomplished it. We have accomplished, and therefore sort of give us the credit for their coming back. But just to repeat that, absolutely, it is a celebration within Palestinian society, importantly, regardless of what the crime was, regardless of who that person is. Very often it is criticized because it is celebrations of murderers that are being released, and sometimes that's true. Very often also it is the release of kids who have graffitied an area, ended up in a year in jail. Both those things are equally celebrated within the Palestinian street.
Alon uploads his own recaps of the Middle East on his personal YouTube channel. Good seeing you, Alon. Talk soon.